Hi and welcome to class number 71. So we're the 25th of March and today we're going to look at the final type of factorisation, which is called difference of two squares. So we're talking about difference, which is a word for subtract in maths. So if I ask you what's the difference between 10 and 3, you would hopefully tell me 7. So when you see the word difference in maths, it's always talking about this subtraction. We're going to talk about square numbers and perfect squares today. But before I do any of that, we're going to look at the homework. So what I've done is I've just put up the final answers. Remember, the order of the brackets doesn't matter. So there are final answers for the questions from last night. You can correct them really quickly. If you're happy with them, you can skip through until I start the new material. Otherwise, I'm going to go through each of those questions now in full in the next few slides. Okay, so I've already given you the answer, so if you're listening to this, it means that something didn't work. You can go through it. I'm going to do them in order to find the ones that were issues, and we're going to go by one. So minus 30, and that means we have different signs. So I'm going to have 30 by 1 or 30 by minus 1. I'll have 15 by 2 or 15 by minus 2. I can go down to 3, so I could have minus 10 by 3 or 10 by minus 3, and then I'm done. I want this to be a minus 13, so 15 minus 2. So I get 5x squared minus 15x plus 2x minus 6, double check. Did everything work out? Is minus 15x plus 2x same as minus 13? And it is. 5x is common, we're left with x minus 3 plus 2 times x minus 3. Brackets are the same, so we get x minus 3 times 5x plus 2. 21. The guide number here is minus 3. Minus means different signs, so we're going to have minus 3 by 1 or 3 by minus 1. I wanted to add to minus 2x, so I'm going to choose 3 and minus 1. 3x squared minus 3x plus 1x minus 1. Again, I'm double checking. Do my middle two terms add up? Minus 3x plus 1x is minus 2x. 3x is common, I'm left with x minus 1. Plus 1 is common, and I'm left with x minus 1. My brackets are the same. It's common, x minus 1 times 3x plus 1. Then I have here, okay, so now these are going to get a little bit fun because we have 12 by 13. That is not something we had in our tables, and you can work that out and we get minus 156. Now, here's a little trick. The trick is, and it doesn't always work, but the trick would be to double check first the factors that got you there. So we had 12 and we had 13. Do they work? Because sometimes they like to kind of give us these big numbers. And is there any combination of 12 and 13 that will work to get us minus 35? And in this case, there isn't. So we're going to have to work it through. So we're going to have a minus 156 by 1 or 156 by minus 1. 156 is also divisible by 2. And that gives us 78 by 1. So negative 78 by minus, by 2. 3, so 156 divided by 3 goes 52 times, so 52 by 3, negative 52 by minus 3. After that, 4, so 156 divided by 4, minus 39 by 4, and 39 by minus 4. Now there's a lot, we could keep going. However, we've actually got the one we want. We've gotten minus 39 plus 4. So when you get to the one you want, you can stop. You don't need to keep going with all of them, especially when we get really big numbers that have a huge amount of factor pairs. Minus 39x plus 4x minus 12. Double check that those middle two terms add back to minus 35. And we get 13x is common. x minus 3. Plus 4 is common, x minus 3. So we get 13x plus 4. And, oh, well actually, sorry, I'll rub this out and I'll do it the other way. So we have x minus 3 is common. So we pull that out in front. And we get 13x plus 4. And if you did it the opposite way around, no problem at all. Question 23, our guide number here is minus 40. So we have our minus, so we're looking at different signs and we want it to be minus 3x when we add them together. So we have a minus 40 by 1, or 40 by minus 1, minus 20 by 2, or 20 by minus 2. We will have 3 doesn't go into it, 4. So 10 minus 10 by 4, 10 by minus 4. No, and 5, yeah, so 5 goes into it, minus 8 by 5, and 8 by minus 5. This one seems to be the one we want. Want it to be a negative 3, so we're going to have minus 8 plus 5x. So we get 2x squared minus 8x plus 5x minus 20. Double check those middle terms, minus 8x plus 5x, yeah, all good. And we're going to do our grouping. 2x is common, we're left with x minus 4. Plus 5 is common, and we're left with x minus 4. X minus 4 is common, and then we get 2x plus 5. So question 24. A little bit nicer because it's a smaller number. You'll learn to appreciate when you see smaller numbers appear here than bigger numbers. So minus 4, and we want to give us a minus 3. So we're going to have minus 4 by 1, or 4 by minus 1, or minus 2 by 2, or 2 by minus 2, but that's the same thing. So we need to figure out which one gives us 3, and that's 4 minus 1. So we get 4x squared plus 4x minus 1x minus 1. Double check those middle two terms. They are good. 4x minus 1x is 3x. And then we have 4x is common, x plus 1. Minus 1 is common, x plus 1. X plus 1, that bracket is the same, times 4x minus 1. And again, if your answers are the opposite way around, absolutely perfect. Question 25, so guide number, it's a bit big, so plus 56, but in the positive, it is positive. So we need 56 by 1, and actually, there we have it straight away. So it actually adds to 57. So we have 8x squared plus 56x plus 1x plus 7. 8x is common, leaving me with x plus 7. Plus 1 is common, giving me x plus 7. We have x plus 7 times 8x plus 1. That was a nice one. You'll start to appreciate when we get small numbers or when they're all positives and things like that. It makes it so much easier. When we have a minus for that guide number, it does make life a little bit harder. This is the last 4 questions. So guide number here in question 26 is plus 20. Got lovely pluses again, but I want it to be minus 12x, so I'm going to have to deal with my negatives. So minus 20 by minus 1, or we have minus 10 by minus 2. 3 doesn't divide in, so minus 5 times minus 4. The one that works for us is minus 10 by minus 2. So that gives us 4x squared minus 10x minus 2x plus 5. So 2x is common, so we're left with 2x minus 5. Nothing common, but we'll pull down the minus. We'll then have a 1, and that leaves us with 2x minus 5. So that is 2x minus 5 times 2x minus 1. Again, if your bracket's the other way around, that's absolutely fine. So our guide number in this question, oh, we're back to a minus. So we get minus 24. So that means our signs are going to have to be different. So that means we're going to have minus 24 by 1 or 24 by minus 1 or minus 12 by 2 or 12 by minus 2 or minus 8 by 3 or 8 by minus 3. Have I hit it yet? Yes. Okay, we have. We wanted it to add to minus 5x. So that means minus 8 plus 3 is the correct one. So we have 8x squared minus 8x plus 3x minus 3. Double check. Minus 8x plus 3x. Yes, that gives me minus 5x. So now I can do grouping. 8x is common. X minus 1 plus 3 is common. X minus 1. X minus 1 is common, so I'm going to pull that out in front, and that leaves me with 8x plus 3. So now 28, our guide number, this is a big one. So it's not in our times tables, so you can go to your calculator and we get plus 72. Now it is plus, so that helps. But our answer, what we wanted to add to is minus, so we're going to deal with our negatives. So we can have minus 72 by minus 1, or 2 is minus 36 by 2. Sorry, minus 36 by minus 2. 72 is divisible by 3. So we get minus 24 by minus 3. And actually we've hit it. We've got the one we want because we want this to be minus 27. So we get 18x squared minus 24x minus 3x plus 4. 18 and 24. What's common to both? And 6 is common to both. 3 is, but you want to remember the highest common factor. If you don't pull out the highest common factor in these grouping questions or in these quadratics that you use grouping, you won't get your brackets to match. So if the brackets aren't matching, especially in quadratics where we don't need to rearrange it, double check that you've pulled out the highest common factor. So here we have a minus and a 1 is common, and we get 3x minus 4. Brackets are the same, so we get 3x minus 4 times 6x minus 1. So our last one here, our guide number is going to be minus 36. Minus means different signs. So we can have minus 36 by 1 or 36 by minus 1. It's divisible by 2, so minus 18 by 2 or 18 by minus 2. It's divisible by 3, so minus 12 by 3 or 12 by minus 3, and actually we have our answer. We wanted to add to minus 9x, so for us that's minus 12 plus 3. So that is 4x squared minus 12x plus 3x minus 9. Double check, minus 12x plus 3x, yeah, that gives me minus 9x. And now that I'm happy with that, I can do highest common factor on each group. So I'm left with x minus 3. Here I get a 3 is common, and I'm left with x minus 3. And that gives me x minus, that's common, we pull that in front, and 4x plus 3. So again, whatever order those brackets are in. If you had any problems with these and you're happy now that you've watched through how we did it, I'd suggest maybe taking a blank page in your copy, going through them and try them again, and come back to the correct solutions in this video as needs be. So now we're going to talk about square numbers or perfect squares. So if I take a number and I square it, so power of 2, I basically am multiplying it by itself. When I multiply it by itself, I'm going to get an answer which is known as a square number or a perfect square. What that means is there is some natural number that when multiplied by itself gives me that answer. The reason they're called square numbers is because they make squares. So if I take one little square, I can make a square. If I take 4 little squares, I can make a bigger square. Now if I took 3 of those little squares, I will never, no matter how hard I try, be able to make a square. So that is where we get this idea of square numbers. So it's really important to be able to recognize them. The Factorization type, and the last one we're going to look at today, is called difference of two squares. This difference of two squares is very different to what we've seen in the first three types, and it doesn't use anything we've learned. That's the good news. It's the easiest, I think, in my opinion. But see what you think. So difference means subtract, two squares means our square numbers. So it's a special type of a quadratic. So let's take these two brackets as an example. When we were doing our quadratic trinomials, we also started with two brackets. So let's see how this is different. Split the first bracket. We then going to multiply it out. But when we do our simplifying at this line, we have minus 5x plus 5x. So that actually ends up as just being x squared minus 25. So we don't end up with a quadratic trinomial, but it is a quadratic because it has an x squared. So what this is actually known as a difference of two squares. Difference because there's a subtract between them, and two squares because they are two square numbers. So this only happens when we start with two brackets where the numbers are the same but the signs are different. So remember, we are always working backwards. Factorization is the opposite to expanding. So please take this down into your copies and we'll take a look at an example. So let's take this as our example and see how we'd work back. So step one is to find the square root of both sides and show these in brackets to be squared. So all that means is we're going to take our numbers and we're going to write them as brackets squared. So what number is squared? Now x is easy because it's just x squared. But 25, what multiplied by itself gives me 25? And the answer is 5. If you wanted to do that in your calculator, you would use the square root button. Square root of 25 is equal to 5. So we haven't changed it, we've only changed how it looks. It's still the same two numbers. Step 2 is we open two brackets. So our brackets are going to end up like the brackets at the end of our quadratic trinomials. So we're going to have two terms in each. And we fill in the brackets with the numbers calculated in step 1. So we put x in and a 5 at the end. So x at the start and 5 in the end. So that's what we get. The last step is one bracket will have a plus and the other bracket will have a minus, because that is how we end up with this special quadratic, because the numbers in the brackets are the same but the signs will be different. And that's it. So let's take another example. So x squared minus 9. We write this as x squared minus 3 squared. We open our two brackets and we get x and 3 and x and 3. We put a plus in one bracket and a minus in the other. If you want to put minus and then plus, remember it doesn't matter. Order of multiplication doesn't matter. Multiplication is commutative. It does not matter. Example 3. So we're going to write this as x squared minus 8 squared, which gives me two brackets. In my brackets, I put x and 8. In one bracket, I put a plus, and in the other bracket, I put a minus. So at this point, you're going, oh, I don't need that middle step, but you do. So important, because these are going to get a little bit harder, like this one. So I don't want things to go wrong. Still a difference of two squares, or is it? I don't know what 196 is. So you go to your calculator and you say square root of 196 and it tells you, oh, it's 14. So you can always check, because if you put a number in that isn't a perfect square, you're not going to get an answer. So this is 14 squared minus a squared. Open our two brackets. We get 14a, 14a, plus in one, minus in the other. The last example, but this is probably the most complex one we'll see. So you have 36x squared minus 25. Now, this is tricky because it's not just a variable term with just a letter. I now put a coefficient in front of it. So when I go to put this as a bracket squared, so the second one is fine. We should all know that's 5. I need to think about the square root of x and the square root of 36. So this becomes 6x squared, because in a bracket to be squared means we're going to square both the 6 and the x. So that works out in our bracket as 6x, 5, 6x and 5, plus in one bracket, minus in the other. What I find happens is in cases like this, if you haven't put in that second line, students will write 36 in both brackets, which is not correct. So really spending some time putting in that middle line, even though you're probably thinking I could do it without that middle line. So that was very quick today. Hopefully it made sense. If not, maybe go back and go through it again. I've given 10 questions here for you to try. These again through assignments, and you go in and work through the form. This will grade it automatically, but I will go through them at the start of tomorrow's class anyway, in case there were any problems. If you finish these quite quickly, which I think you will, because you probably takes a minute to do each, probably. Spend a little bit of time going back over those quadratic trinomials and make sure you're doing okay with them.